Genius for life. Coconut smoothies coming at you.
Hello there. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Genius. I am Alex Baer. I'm the CEO and founder of Genius Juice. This week I decided not to wear a hat. That's me living dangerously and mixing it up. We're here at Manhattan Beach Studios in, of course, the beautiful city of Manhattan Beach. I want to give a big shout out to Mark Nicholas, Mark N at ManhattanBeachStudios.net. This is the guy that is making this all happen. He's editing it, but I wish he'd edit me more so that I look better, because right now I'm looking okay. But anyway, we're ready to go. Really excited for our guests here. So let's get right into the intros. Now, on episode 3, we had just J.R. Simich. He's the co-founder, VP Sales of Vive Organic, one of the fastest-growing wellness shots in the country right now. But this time, we decided to bring him back for a part 2, and we have his co-founder and partner in crime, Wyatt Taubman. He is a CEO, co-founder and CEO of Vive Organic. Here's a little intro. And then Wyatt will get more into detail on it, but let me just go into this. After an illness, it drove Wyatt to explore a proactive health approach. He met a team of holistic specialists that opened his eyes to how nature could help him thrive. He was inspired to share the experience with as many people as possible, and that's a lot of freaking people that have drank Vive shots, so mission accomplished. Beginning with a focus on the natural channel, Vive has expanded to meet rising demand from customers in 8,000 doors across natural, conventional, mass, and drugstore accounts, including key banners such as Whole Foods, Sprouts, Safeway, Wegmans, Target, and CVS. JR, Wyatt, how you guys doing?
Hey, Alex.
We're here. We're live.
Right on. Thanks for making it. We got three different cities going on. We got JR, who's in the South Bay, like Redondo area. We got Wyatt in San Francisco, and I'm in Manhattan Beach, as mentioned. So let's get right into it. I know we covered a lot on our last podcast, but now we have Wyatt here. So the first thing I want to get into is this Wyatt. We talked about JR and his story on the last episode. Let's go, since you're one of the guests of honor here, let's go into your story. How did you really, number one, how did you get into the space in general? I know you had a very successful, which is still going right now, a water machine company. I'll let you touch on that, and then get into Vive. So why don't you tell us kind of the evolution of how you, your last opportunity, and then also getting into Vive.
Yeah, sure. And actually, I like this because the story of Vive actually starts well before Vive actually started, when JR, Kyle, our other co-founder and COO, we all met in college. So we were down in San Diego studying, and I was actually an environmental studies student at the time, and I was learning about a lot of different issues that we were facing around the world. And I got really passionate about trying to figure out a solution to make reusable water bottles more kind of widely available or convenient, and just get more and more people carrying a reusable canteen around. I was seeing students refilling their reusable water bottles at the drinking fountains, holding them sideways, and I was thinking to myself that wasn't very convenient. The tap water wasn't great. There must be a better option. And so I started working on the concept of a company before Vive called FloWater that JR and I worked together on at different points. But that's really where it started in terms of connecting with JR and Kyle, was back in college. And so had this idea about developing a premium reusable water bottle refilling kiosk to make reusables much more convenient, and try to get people away from premium single-use plastic water bottle brands, and trying to get them to refill their reusable canteens, and just really was passionate about that. And so that was kind of my first foray into startups. Didn't know really anything at the time. It was really kind of a challenging one to get off the ground. Started it with a bank loan, about $18,600 from actually the Bank of Hawaii, which is where I'm from, and built the first reusable water bottle refilling kiosk, the first FloWater refill station. Installed it at my old high school, actually, and fortunately it went well. And about a year and a half later, raised a seed round from some angel investors in California and Hawaii, the Tech Coast Angels and the Hawaii Angels, and then later on raised our Series A, and about 24 months ago, FloWater closed its Series B. And I actually saw the idea for Vive when I was still working full-time at FloWater. I was traveling for an event in Florida that FloWater was hydrating, a fitness event, and I was getting sick. I had been, working for 4.5 years on FloWater. It was, action-packed and was traveling like crazy. And so was definitely feeling pretty run down and pretty funky. And I came across a local vendor that had these at the event that had little blended up ginger turmeric shots just on ice, and I had never seen anything like it before. And I've always been a big fan of the functional beverage set at Whole Foods. Drinking the healthy beverages, and big believer in ginger and turmeric and these powerful super herbs. So when I came across this little ginger turmeric shot, this concoction of concentrated, powerful super herbs, but fresh, I was really blown away. And I thought, like, how is this not everywhere? How have I not seen this before? And so I bought 2 shots right then and there. I took them, and they really burnt the heck out of my throat. Actually, it was pretty intense, but I loved it, and I kind of, that just stuck with me. And I was still full-time at FloWater, so I really couldn't think too much about it. But about 18 months later, I kind of started to, I have some more time, and I went back and started to look at the opportunity, and did about a couple months of just diligence on it, and felt that the timing was right, and that I could be starting a company that was well positioned from a timing standpoint, but also something I could really believe in. And that's when I went and approached JR, and then also Kyle, our other co-founder and COO, as well as a team of holistic medicine or integrative medicine doctors that had helped me overcome some health issues that I was dealing with. And together we worked to formulate the first shots and launched Vive in 2016.
That is awesome. And kind of leads me to, my next question, where you embarked on an amazing idea that you're like, this needs to be everywhere. I felt the same way when I first tried a whole coconut drink. I'm like, this is so much better than coconut water, right? And I think the magic of Vive is that it's great ingredients in a 2-ounce shot versus having to drink an entire 16-ounce bottle to get the benefits. So you absorb the benefits much faster than if you had to have a 16-ounce juice. So getting into my next question here, you embarked on the idea, you met with JR and Kyle maybe at a cafe, I think, in San Francisco, if I recall JR's story correctly. How did you take it from an ideation stage to developing it and getting it to the market? And for anyone watching, I mean, that sounds like it's quick. It is a long process. So how did you guys actually arrive to just get this from an idea and get it just on the shelf? And how quickly was that turnaround?
Yeah, and JR, I don't know if you want to take that and jump in. I can as well.
You go, and I'll back you up.
Okay. All right. So
JR is being very generous with the time, shifting it to you because he had 15 minutes before.
I was on my own 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's perfect. We had to move really quickly. So we started. I remember this was a crazy time. So actually, I feel like I say that about all the different times because they've always been crazy for the last 4.5 years. But we essentially kind of dove in around December of 2015, Kyle, JR, and I, and we launched our first shots on shelf in April of 2016. So, we had the formulation done, we had the packaging done, company formed, first round of funding raised, all of that in that time frame. And so it was a lot to get done in about 5 months. And I think what we did really well is we just divided it all up, and we divided and conquered. We JR had kind of his area, Kyle had his area, I had my area, and we were all really working closely together, of course, but with really well defined roles and responsibilities, even at the earliest stages, to make sure we could really just kind of parallel path and just move a lot forward at the same time. And that, fortunately, also with JR's expertise in sales and his ability to kind of problem solve and figure things out, and connect with a lot of different people, and Kyle's expertise in operations, and supply chain, and manufacturing, and then my experience in other areas, fundraising and strategy and other areas. We were able to kind of put it all together, and kind of hit the road, kind of running.
And one thing I want to ask real quick, JR, just to Wyatt, very quick. How the hell do you raise money when it's pre-revenue? Like, so many entrepreneurs they're struggling with that. So how much did you raise pre-rev, and how did you raise it? Where did you find these people? I mean, just billionaires that are just coughing, oh, here's a couple mil, but how do you find these people?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, because I had the FloWater past experience, I was able to go back to those, investors, and they were able to, get us funded and get us off the ground. That doesn't mean we didn't also go to our friends and family, which we definitely did, bring in, and got them all involved. But definitely already had a connection established because of the FloWater experience. But I would say that, pre-revenue, it's really about having a problem or a solution, and a solution or a solution for a problem. Maybe where you're offering something that really fits into that trend.
Right.
Kind of, I think, had a bit of both. And then, having the right team. Ideally, proof of concept certainly helps if you can kind of look at whether there's some other early competition, actually proving that concept out. You may or may not be able to get that, but having a strong team, strong plan, financials, and the belief that you can go out and create a product that will solve a problem, and also a big market opportunity, a really big, the belief that there's going to be a big business opportunity ahead. I think those things are enough to get people to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think in what you're talking about, how to kind of, and passing this on to people that are watching, there needs to be an alignment of the stars. And I think, when Wyatt was you were able to go back to your investors from FloWater, but they're not just going to give you money because they know you and you've had a past success. You had a concrete plan in place on how to grow this from year 1, year 2, year 3, and beyond, and eventually to an exit if that's what you guys want to do. And also having the right team. You, JR, and Kyle are like a powerhouse trifecta that all are great in their respective areas. You're good at running the company, JR is great at the sales and marketing side, Kyle's great at operations. So JR, to flip it over to you, so I want to get you some minutes here. I'm going to flip it back. So talk to us about what you did in retail early on, right? Like getting into Whole Foods, getting into some of these retailers in the first year or so. How do you build a brand? How do you build the category? Obviously, you're now the leaders in this category. But tell us about some of the early rise and grind days with Vive, because I think it's cool to hear how you guys started and how you created a retail presence for yourself.
Totally. And I want to keep it kind of simple and tie it back to what Wyatt was kind of discussing. I think having really clearly defined goals and aggressive goals is key. We had a really great plan that we were able to run by a lot of different people in the industry, we really looked to people that we knew in the industry. We had a few different early advisors that we brought on that were friends of ours that were already in CPG. So, Wyatt, Kyle, myself, we would run the plan by each other. But once we had those goals, we would keep each other accountable. There was only 3 of us. So we all had to really push each other to hit Kyle's operation goals, Wyatt's fundraising, corporate goals, and my sales goals. So I believe so much in partnership and believed so much in Kyle and Wyatt that I did everything to come through on my end, on my promises, on my goals that I had to hit for the company, even if they were as simple as getting us into our 5 first retail locations, right? Like when I walked up to PC Greens, our first account in Malibu, walking into those doors, I was like, this is the most important day of my life right now, to get us into this account, onto this shelf right now, because, those were my goals for the company. And I had felt like, Kyle and Wyatt were working so hard towards theirs that I needed to hit mine as well. So having those clearly defined goals and having someone to keep you accountable. And if you're a solo entrepreneur, if it's someone needs to be keeping you accountable for those goals. And I'm just lucky to have had the team to push me to make them happen.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. How did you find, when, it was kind of a hybrid. When you launched Vive, there was one leader in the market, yet it was still a very, very young market. How was the first 6? Now it's huge. The category is huge. You have a big slice of that category, which is awesome. You grew and the category also grew. But in the early days, like how did stores receive wellness shots? Was it tough to get into some retailers? Maybe some didn't believe you on how big the category was going to get. Obviously, you've had the last laugh because it's doing great. How were there a lot of challenges in selling it in to retailers in the early days?
100%. We were selling a vision that wasn't there yet, and that is always a challenge. There was times where people doubted us or didn't believe in the category or just quite frankly passed on us and said no. And that's always a challenge, and you kind of brush yourself off and go on to the next opportunity and believe in yourself and your team and the brand.
Yep, exactly. It's funny. It reminds me of a story from Gary V, Gary Vaynerchuk, where his friend emailed him saying, I have this opportunity for a friends and family round for a company called Airbnb. And Gary V passed on it. And if he invested, it would have been worth well over $100 million now. I think it was a $500,000 investment, and now it's at $100 million. But anyway, I think you guys are amazing. You've built a great category, and it's only growing more and more. And as we talked about before going live, there are retailers now like Safeway, Kroger that are now catching on to this and realizing they need to be current with the demands out there, and they're bringing in shots. They're bringing in brands like Genius Juice. So it's exciting. We're in the right place at the right time. Last question I have, because we're almost out of time here and we have like a minute or two. Wyatt, let's just do a rapid fire session on fundraising, right? You talked about early stage, friends and family. I know this is a loaded, probably long answer kind of question, but I'm going to challenge you to kind of condense it all into 1 or 2 minutes here.
Sure.
For those that are out there, raising capital is tough. I mean, you can get friends and family, but to get that Series A, you got to have the right stuff, right? I think the movie is being re-released, the right stuff and the right formula. So what was your strategy to get that Series A going? How did you get the lead investor? And then obviously you just raised for anyone who doesn't know, a Series B at 13 mil. And that's a nice chunk of change there to really help you build the brand. Just some advice for entrepreneurs watching the tricky arena of raising capital. What's some of your advice on that?
Yeah. So I think for me, I think about each round of funding and ultimately what's required to raise each round of funding changes. And so, at each round of funding, what investors want to see to invest in your business is going to be different. So knowing what they want to see very, very early on ensures that you're able to deliver it. And there's a specific process that I like to use, certainly at the early stages, even through a Series B, that for us has really worked, every time. And that's knowing what I typically call the different check boxes, the check boxes that an investor is going to need to see checked in order to want to put money into your business. So knowing those check boxes very early on makes a big difference to make sure you can check them. These check boxes will be different for every business, of course, and they may also change over time. So you want to make sure that you're getting the check boxes from the potential investors. So that means you really need to build a network at the start of your company with top angel investors, early VCs, later stage VCs. And, you're going to need to raise a round of funding in, say, 12 months or 18 months or 24 months in the future. And so at that point, connecting with this network that you're building to kind of get their feedback on your plans, your strategy, kind of understanding what they would need to see and want to see to put money into your business at that future round of financing. Really getting, running things by them and really getting their feedback and really valuing their input and their advice, for me has been super helpful to make sure we're crafting the right strategy and the right approach that puts us in a position to raise a successful round of funding in the future. And then, once you do raise that round of funding, say it's your seed round, looking to the future, looking to your Series A. What are the check boxes for your Series A? Within the first month of closing your seed round, we'd be looking into understanding all of the check boxes for our Series A. And we'd reach out to that network. We'd run our plans and our strategy by them and understand what they'd want to see and need to see in order to fund a successful business in 12 or 18 or 24 months. And so, doing that kind of immediately upon closing a round of funding and looking to your next round of funding and getting feedback was really, really helpful for us. And I think was a big kind of a bit of a game changer to help make sure that we were raising a good, successful round of funding.
Absolutely. I mean, you are in this industry. I think I don't know anyone else that has this kind of skill set to raise this kind of capital, but also the other pieces have to be in place, right? You can be great at raising capital, but it has to be backed up by an amazing brand, amazing product, amazing team, and you're aligned on all of those. So really good stuff, guys. Well, we are out of time, so really appreciate Wyatt, thank you for making it on for this episode. JR, thank you for making your second appearance on 15 Minutes of Genius, renaming this to 21 Minutes of Genius for this week. You guys were on a roll. I wasn't going to stop you. I can't just cut it off like that, You had to keep going. So thank you again for joining us, guys. Take good care, and let's keep the good vibes rolling.
Thanks for having
Alex.
us, Alex.
All right. Take care, guys.
See ya.
All right, so that is this week's episode of 15 Minutes of Genius, tentatively titled 21 Minutes of Genius, with the Vive guys. That's J.R. Simich and Wyatt Taubman, the co-founders of Vive Organic, the leading refrigerated wellness shot in the country at your local store. I'm just going to say local store because it's probably available right near you. That's how prevalent this brand is. So thank you again, and one last thing, stay genius, my friends.
Genius for life. Coconut smoothies coming at you.